P1 are such a large swath of improvement. Moving the way over, not even going to get it. Actually goes on to Pobelter, takes him down the carry.
They're going to do it!
I think P1 can still be a threat because they have really strong individual players like Arrow, Ryu, and Mike Young now.
He has to be careful with it.
He needs to buy time because this is going to chunk them. He's going to kill Ole!
Oh yeah, he's going to get the kill. Mike Young, the savior!
Mike Young is insane!
Since bringing in a new member, it seems like it kind of reignited a fire in the team.
Arrow, but he QS us down now. Zig going to start it all off. Special jumps in. Flash ulti goes a 3-man knockover as Mike Young going to take it pre to start. Apollo gets absolutely taken down.
Honestly, we've been improving at a pretty fast rate.
Nexus exposed, and that's going to do it. P1 sweep the week. This team is on the rise.
Welcome back to Week 6 of the North American League Championship Series. Our Rift Rivals teams return to see if they can match up to some real competition in this weekend of games, as the fans have packed both of our arenas today to watch their favorite teams do battle. We've got Altec arriving at the studio a little bit earlier alongside his new support, Adrian. Phoenix 1, hot off the plane, back from a strong performance at Rift Rivals. Mike Young making a splash. So we'll keep an eye on him this weekend. As always, he's going to face off against FLICKR today, who's taking a page out of Moon's book, staying hydrated. Big jungle matchup there. And speaking of junglers, Dardoch back in the hot seat in Game 1 today against Dignitas. Hello, everyone. I'm James Patterson, flying blind today without my glasses. That's okay, though, because I have some A-tier analysts alongside me, Mark Zimmerman and Aiden Zyrene Moon. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
I'm doing great.
A-tier? Ready to be A-tier? Yes, A-tier.
Is there an S-tier?
If you succeed in being my seeing eye analyst today, I'll bump you up to S-tier.
Okay,
right?
I was just wondering if there's a tier I can move up.
Ready? Go.
Why don't we check out the standings?
Boom! Olympic Gaming currently has sole possession of first place, but have teams like Immortals and TSM not far behind them, while Envy and Dignitas try to break into that top 4 from 5th place. Now, those teams will have their chance to do so with our games today. First up, Rift Rivals MVPs Mike Young and FLICKR duke it out on NALCS 1, with Cloud9 looking to make a push from 4th against Team Envy later in the day. Over on NALCS 2, CLG hope to maintain first as they face Team Dignitas, followed by Team Liquid and FlyQuest in the battle theater. Last night, though, we got a refresher of why CLG and Immortals are top teams, even though they didn't attend Rift Rivals.
Yeah, let's talk about CLG first, because they're in #1 right now. They've played a variety of styles, and that's what's really impressive to me about this team is their macro game is really good, but at the same time, they are diversifying. Huhi has played the most unique champions in mid lane out of any mid laner, and Darshan has played the most unique champions top lane at 13. So right now, this team is diversifying their playbook, and then they're also diversifying their roster with their debut of Omar God in the jungle yesterday, which looked like they didn't miss a beat. So CLG in that first place spot, it looks very convincing right now, and they can do a whole bunch of
making all those adjustments and winning while doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Immortals is another team that last night I did like what I saw from them in terms of diversifying their playbook. This time around, they take the LeBlanc early on, they snowballed a little bit, and then Pobelter has a monster game where he goes and split pushes down the victory basically in a 1-3-1 setup, which is something we hadn't really seen out of Immortals. A lot of it was the kind of classic, like Smithy makes a big play early on, they get a lead, they go for these kind of nice macro 5-man plays, but having this other style is really nice, especially given the fact that they had to bounce back after an 0-2 weekend before Rift Rivals.
Exactly, because they lost to Phoenix 1 and TSM right before Rift Rivals, so the conversation of Immortals coming into Week 5 was they're 7-1, who can beat these guys? They look like the best team in North America with Pobelter and Smithy looking really great. Well, now the conversation has shifted to, all right, CLG, TSM is rising, P1's rising, and Immortals are kind of getting lost in this pack of 5 different teams that people are talking about, and they're no longer that clear-cut #1, so they definitely have some competition.
I think that's the key, right? We've got the 3 Rift Rival teams that all looked fairly good across the Atlantic, and returning here, we have big expectations out of those 3 squads, but we do have to remember the power that sits within these 2, and that makes up half of our league in its entirety as being very strong NALCS teams.
Yeah, and I think that's the best thing about the Rift Rivals situation was just that we got to see, you know, TSM, C9, and P1 all do well, and then know that we have other strong teams that, so when Worlds comes around, we should be pretty good.
Yeah, the one that I'm kind of like looking at and thinking, you know, I think Cloud9 is the one that's still a question mark for me.
Okay.
Because, sure, they came into Rift Rivals, they had 3-3 record against Europe, whereas Phoenix 1 went 4-2. But the thing with Cloud9 is you have to remember, they kind of came in a little overhyped, in my opinion, because they beat TSM right before they went, but their record is still 6-4. They are 1 match above being at a 500.
Right.
So that's something you have to consider when you look at Cloud9. If they have a lot of struggles, whereas these teams above them are ones that, you know, are figuring things out and diversifying.
Right, you got some reservations around Cloud9, but a team that a lot of people have been very excited about recently is Phoenix One. Now, we might be in that position, though, where we got to caution some people. Look, they're still sitting near the bottom of the table. And when we take into account the matchups that they have coming up, for example, today against TSM, they still actually have to play TSM twice in the remaining 8 matches.
And today's the perfect chance to prove that Rift Rivals wasn't you know, kind of just an overperformance, because I'm still a little reserved in my, you know, evaluation of them, just because it was the perfect format for them, where it's best of ones. You're up against a region who's not used to your play style. They are super aggressive. They have a little bit of that Gigabyte Marines flair from MSI, where they just play the game so much faster paced than everyone else around them. That takes a little bit of time to get used to, whereas in North America, it's best of 3s. They've been scrimming in this environment. We're more used to seeing Mike Young and his crazy shenanigans.
I do have to disagree a bit, though, because sure, they went to Rift Rivals and had a really good performance, but remember the week before that, they beat Immortals. And then they also beat Envy and had a 2-0 week. So they've beaten 2 teams above them in the standings. So I definitely think this team is going to surge, and I think they're going to be doing great things here today, especially against TSM. Like, this is the one that kind of worries me, is you look at Phoenix One, and their 2 losses at Rift Rivals were against Fnatic, who are bot lane focused. And Arrow has been sacrificing so much. Mike Young's been playing to solo lanes. So if TSM kind of feed on that and make double lift like a side lane split push carry, they could exploit that in that matchup.
Now, obviously, if Phoenix One wins today and win in dominant fashion, that, as you mentioned, Mark, would be a great boon to saying, okay, this team they're there, right? They've made it. They're a top echelon team. What could they do in a loss against TSM to still kind of, you know, serve to remove some of your reservations around the team?
I want to see them go pretty even in laning phase. It's something that they sometimes struggle with. They really rely on Mike Young to do crazy stuff in the early game to draw so much attention to him that the rest of the laners kind of get a free pass. So if they can match up individually well against TSM, even if they lose, that would be nice. Or if they're able to get leads, not just through Mike Young being crazy and going and messing with Svenskeren in the jungle. A couple other ways to get advantages or go even.
All right, so you want to see them be able to create standard leads and standard game wins. Obviously, they can always fall back on the playmaking in times of need, but we want to see that.
For me, though, it's more macro, right?
Okay.
Their late game macro was always the thing that kind of bit them. Then Mike Young came in, gave them these gigantic leads. And even against Immortals when they won, they had some macro falters, like the Baron when they had a lead. Mike Young had to kind of just pull that game back from the grave and be like, we are not losing this. So for me, it's more of, I want to see Phoenix One have a good mid-late macro game, especially against TSM, who are looking like one of the best in the league.
All right, well, there we have it. Phoenix One versus TSM, big matchup today. Time to hand it over to the casters to bring us into the games.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. My name is David Freak Turley, and my co-caster is the little-known third form of Keane, Joshua Jat Leisman.
I wonder when that happens. Maybe when he has a positive win rate.
Yeah, kills the Nexus, turns into Jat. Champions. Great, good job. Champions are almost summoned, ready to go for our first series. It's Counter Logic Gaming taking on Team Dignitas. And last night, CLG got a 2-0 win. Now, game 1 was rough, but they made up for it with a very solid game 2 against FlyQuest.
Yeah, and CLG do need to continue to perform the way they did yesterday if they want to hold that #1 seed, because they are in pole position at 9-2, but TSM and Immortals are still looking strong and already have wins over CLG this split. But looking at yesterday, Huhi was the standout performer in that match. There was a lot of discussion about patch 7.13 and how Gnar was super strong or how Cinderhulk was going to change the meta. But it was the mid lane Vel'Koz that dominated both of those games from Huhi, so props to him for finding kind of another pocket pick. He had played it about a year back in a Madison Square Garden game or something, but it was still very impressive.
Definitely was. And of course, a strong CLG is not what Team Dignitas wants. Team Dignitas started the split 5-1. They lost 4 matches in a row, and they don't want another tough opponent. They'd like to turn it around.
Yeah, and the Team Dignitas struggles are highlighted by the fact that they lost to FlyQuest and Team Envy 2 weeks ago, which was last week in LCS terms. And those were 2 teams that were below them in the standings. So if Team Dignitas want to maintain this 5th place spot, they have to start coming up with wins, and it's going to be incredibly difficult against CLG.
Yeah, of course, the first place team is going to be hard for almost anyone here in this season, in this LCS. But we're going to see if Team Dignitas has anything new in store. In the past, we've seen them focus a lot around Ssumday in the top lane, which is something that Dardoch expects in today's match.
At the end of last split, it seemed like Dignitas was learning to play around bottom side, and then when the new split came around, they were just like, fuck it, and then they just camped for Ssumday again. But I'm under the opinion that Ssumday is not that good, and that he is he's getting babysat, and then he's just playing carries that are going to outscale anyway, like Fiora. But yeah, they're the same team as well. They just kind of play around topside, and if it works, they snowball and win. If it doesn't work, they're they're a mess in a mid to late game. They don't seem like they play as a unit.
Well, strong words out of Dardoch. That said,
Yep.
5-5 kind of speaks to it, though. 4 losses in a row.
Yeah, wouldn't expect anything less from Dardoch. And also that bottom lane that they were, learning to play around last split is completely different at this point.
Yeah, let's get ourselves into the starting lineups. On the blue side is Counter Logic Gaming with not a lot of new faces here. Darshan in the top lane. Dardoch just heard from him in the jungle. Huhi, and there was a couple of Vel'Koz games yesterday. Stixxay and aphromoo in that bottom lane alongside Coach Six.
Yeah, CLG drops a lot of games, but not many matches so far this split. So interesting to see that today. On the other side, facing them is Team Dignitas. Today we have Ssumday up in the top lane, Shrimp in the jungle, Keane in mid lane, Altec in bot, with Adrian, who will be making his Team Dignitas debut on stage.
Yep, absolutely. So Altec and Adrian, of course, we've seen a couple matches from Altec now. I think he played the entirety of last week's meaning week 5's games. And yeah, as you mentioned, Adrian making his debut. So Team Dignitas have essentially fully subbed out their bot lane from the starting roster. And if what Dardoch is talking about is, well, they used to know how to play around bot lane, is that because they lost faith in their players, which is why they subbed them out, and now Dignitas have a new style? Or is it going to be even rougher because they haven't played with these guys as much?
Yeah, there's been a lot of volatility down in that bottom lane, because if we think even back to last split, it was Xpecial and Stunt who they were trading out down there. And now they're swapping out between Adrian and Big. So much change down in that bottom side, which at that point you start going with what you're comfortable with. So you would still expect Team Dignitas to play with Shrimp around topside and Ssumday.
We'll see what happens here for this one, what Shrimp can do for the squad, and what else Team Dignitas can do up against the #1 team currently in the North American LCS, which is Counter Logic Gaming. 8 matches to play for Team Dignitas, 7 left for CLG. Meaning the worst CLG could even do is 9-9 to close out the split. At a certain point, they're going to lock in a playoff spot for certain, but that is not yet an eventuality. LeBlanc, Elise, Cassiopeia all root from the table. Shrimp losing that Elise is no big surprise. And we are still on 7-13, so Caitlyn is still the best bot laner by most people's considerations, which is why that's banned away from Stixxay.
Yeah, exactly. All the bans except for the last ones by both teams you could expect in any ban phase, but those two feel very targeted. The Cassiopeia is at Keane, it's one of his most effective mid lane champions, and the Aurelion Sol against CLG is a fairly common sight at this point, because a lot of people don't even understand the parameters in which Huhi will pick it, so they just get rid of it right off the bat to not have to worry about it.
I'm not going to have to worry about it this game, but maybe the Vel'Koz will give them a different head scratcher here. Gragas first pick by CLG. We know it's a flex. We know it's very commonly first pick here in North America. Renekton and that Kindred. Kindred? Yes. No? Kalista. Wow, my brain... I played her literally yesterday twice, and I forgot the name of Kalista.
Yeah, that's happened to me a little bit this week, too. I blame Rift Rivals and jet lag.
Oh,
so
there you go, me too.
Counter Logic Gaming and Team Dignitas don't have to worry about word disassociation today. And I do want to talk about Gragas just a little bit, because the Cinderhulk changes are on this patch, and I do think it actually is very good for tank junglers. Gragas is the one people are familiar with, so it's the earliest adopter to the Cinderhulk, but I do think picks like Sejuani and Maokai are viable on this patch, and it could be possible for Team Dignitas to pick that later if they have spent the time to pick it up in the off week.
You were just pointing out to me before the show started, you're watching CV LOL, and Sejuani got first picked in that league. And I agree, I think Sejuani and Maokai are exceptionally strong, and I'd love to see teams pick it up. See that comes in the future. Varus going to be locked in fairly early for CLG. A bit of a surprise to me, but I know the LCK loves their arrow-wielding bot laners, and looks like CLG going to do something similar here. I also feel like Gnar works exceptionally well. You mentioned adopting the changes pretty quickly. I think Gnar is fastly approaching maybe the best top laner in 7-13 and onwards, and I think it's a good matchup in Renekton too. Yeah,
if we're calling Gnar the best top laner in 7-13, Thresh could very well be the best support in 7-13 for the playmaking potential and just the raw strength in lane as far as getting picks against a Varus who doesn't have too many mechanisms to dodge skill shots other than trying to shove the wave and hide behind minions. So I do think that bottom lane is very strong for Altec and Adrian if they're willing to play around it. The gank assistance is spectacular, and it is a duo that we see snowball fairly often.
Absolutely agree. Going to be a very strong one down there. We'll see what Team Dignitas grabs later on for their jungle and mid lane. Counter Logic Gaming need a support and a mid lane, so slightly desynced roles here, and you're seeing the support band come through. The Morgana on the one side, Nunu on the other. And of course, Team Dignitas have first dibs, which will very frequently be that jungle pick, so CLG much more under the gun to ban away junglers. Yeah,
I talked about Sejuani and Maokai, but Nunu is also a very prevalent jungler if you want to play Cinderhulk, and it's a blind guessing game for CLG here, as they do hold that mismatch in the jungle role, but I do feel like there are too many junglers to actually ban out any type of flexibility that Shrimp could have. Rek'Sai, Kha'Zix, Lee Sin, plus all of the Cinderhulk junglers. It's actually a role that I don't think you can ban out right now in the second phase. unless they have some good scouting or intel on what he's been practicing.
Meanwhile, name any other team in the world that pulls Aurelion Sol Vel'Koz bans. I absolutely love players who innovate and bring their own things to the table, and Huhi, by doing this, have brought in 2 unique bans out of Team Dignitas, and probably will still play something he's effective on.
Yeah, Huhi's been playing lights out this split.
Yeah.
A lot of times he used to kind of complain about playing too many champions, and people would then flame him by saying, well, you actually don't play any of them well.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's elevated his play to a level this split where he is drawing bans now on multiple different fringe picks, which really opens up the rest of CLG. Look at the meta picks they have.
Yeah.
They got Gragas, they got Gnar, and then they got a bunch of bans thrown at Morgana and Vel'Koz, which are, again, CLG pocket picks. So now if they have put time in, they just get access to the meta picks that everyone else normally gets banned out against.
Yeah, to your Huhi point, right? He's played more mid laners than anyone else in NALCS, so he's actually still keeping the wide champion pool, drawing the fringe bans, and as we know, CLG's in the first place, so it's working out for them.
Right.
Corki going to be his mid laner.
And now he gets Corki after
Which is
the
great.
second ban phase, which is a super solid pick. Of course, he is going up against Syndra, which Team Dignitas said was worthy of a blind pick here. We'll have to see how that plays out. The Corki can definitely go a Hex Drinker fairly early if he wants to, and then neutralize that lane.
There we go. Yeah, wanted to prior to pick it. Now Nidalee comes through after it all, so only a couple jungle pans went through in the first place. Nunu, Elise, and Zac were only those, and Gragas off the table. Went for a Nidalee himself, so Shrimp going to be on a nice, fast, aggressive jungler. It's a nice mix of damage types, so they do focus the top lane.
Yeah.
Renekton has the CC, Nidalee has the damage.
Definitely fast, clear a lot of damage, and Nidalee does work very well with high CC compositions. I also think it'll be a little bit longer until we see full adoption of tank junglers, who I do think can make it into the meta, but just the way pro teams have their practice regimens, it's a very high risk to invest practice in something you're not sure about,
Yes.
and Nidalee has been good for a
Demonstrated.
while. Yeah, exactly, and fits this team composition quite well as far as lanes where Nidalee can go to have a high impact. They'll bring the CC, Spear land, get a kill.
Yep, every single lane has hard crowd control, and there's at least enough front lane with Renekton and Thresh that you can get away with a squishier jungler. So you're right, chat, it checks all the boxes. Gonna be fun to see what Team Dignitas can do for themselves and what Counter Logic Gaming can do. If they can make this a very swift 2-0 match start to, or I guess 2-0 match end to the week. Of course, they played on Friday, and they're playing the very first thing here on Saturday. Gnar, Gragas, Corki, Varus, and Braum. A giant front line with double marksman. Corki, an incredibly high damage champion. Varus a bit lower, but certainly brings some crowd control. CLG playing a pretty standard composition, and Team Dignitas, right, bringing Nidalee into lanes with a bunch of crowd control with Renekton, a Syndra, a Thresh, and we know that Thresh Kalista bot lane is so strong.
Yeah, I think the CLG team composition would be better in standard team fights with tanks in front and damage dealers in the back, what we like to call front to back, whereas Team Dignitas have a lot of pick potential, and they're going to try and win through CC and early access before fights develop the standard lines.
Let's see what happens here. We are on the rift for game 1 of this series. Counter Logic Gaming can make it a 10-2 start to the split and continue to stay arms distance ahead of everyone else trying to catch them up in first place. We'll see what Team Dignitas can do for themselves if they can stop the slide against the #1 team in North America right now, as the Earth Rider Corki heads way up to the bot lane tri-brush, and Darshan is going to spot out in the top side to look for invades.
And Team Dignitas definitely have been trying to make a lot of changes. Just comparing this roster now to the roster that started in week 1, it's
Keane and Ssumday.
2/5 the same.
Yep.
It's just Keane and Ssumday that have remained. So definitely a lot of turnover in this roster. They have talked about trying to expand their roster for more flexibility. But when things aren't working, you are going to see change. And during this loss streak, they've made a lot of change.
Yep, and it's interesting because they did start out very strong, and it was only until the loss streak they really started to change things up. I remember when Shrimp first came in, when they played against TSM, asking Cop about it, and he said, well, he's more communicative. It's better for the team overall. You know, same reason that Big is here. It's just this grouping works for us better. The team seems to function on a better level this way, and you assume the coaching staff, it's Cop and St. Vision, anyone else who's involved, say, no, this is the right group for us. These are the right players to make sure that we're going to get ourselves some wins. And we now get ourselves into the mid lane as neither Keane, well, Keane's not going to leash, but Huhi is actually going to make it pretty easy for Dardoch to knock down these Raptors. As soon as Body Slam comes back up, they'll be all dead. Quick leash, and Shrimp's going to be off in a pretty good spot as well.
Yeah, so trying to give him a little bit of a head start. That's about as good of a leash as you can give the Nidalee when you're on red side. A lot of times the Nidalee wouldn't get the same type of super pull that the other side could get, which, by the way, CLG did give to Dardoch, so he left the big Raptor alive, got a pull on the red, and can be on a very fast track to level 3 if he does blue buff and ganks top, which as Gragas, you might want to do, depending on how aggressive you think Ssumday will be in that top side.
And the cost is that Stixxay and aphromoo missed 2 of the 3 melee minions for experience. They have barely any XP at all, so it's going to be pretty much the entire second wave needs to die to get level 2. Level 2 power spike could be abused by Team Dignitas if they want to.
I do want to jump top lane for a bit, though, just because it depends on how aggressive Ssumday is, because the timing of this Dardoch gank is very early. He might catch him during the ward, and they can all in.
Body slam's going to land into the stun from Gnar. There's not any HP left, and there's no way out for Ssumday. Tries to slice, but no dice. He's gone.
Yeah, and that is what you get with the strong pull. Ssumday did not make it over early enough for the ward. You actually do need to do that ward before 3 minutes. At level 2, doesn't make it in time.
Well, really nicely done by Logic Gaming, and obviously the cost pays off for Stixxay and aphromoo. They're going to lose out on CS and stats, and, you know, it's going to look like their worst laners, but I got their team's first blood, and obviously worth it here, so nice stuff right there. Dardoch even gives away an extra ward to make sure that Shrimp doesn't sneak into the lane through Tri-Brush, and look at that. Well, he's on a ward himself. Ssumday going to play far enough back. Adrian, one more hit from getting stunned. Nice little trade.
Yeah, I will praise Dardoch for the first gank, but not necessarily for the repeater gank. You do want to try and return to a top lane gank once the teleport has been burned, because that's when lane advantages are really solidified. Early kills oftentimes can even backfire on a laner if the wave is in the wrong spot and then the guy gets teleport back. But they should have seen Ssumday ward as they got the kill on him, generally. Obviously, there's a lot of distractions that go on while you're fighting. You don't necessarily notice a dude warding a brush, but now Ssumday's getting a little bit of ward control to hopefully continue his laning phase without disturbance.
Speaking of noticing a dude warding a brush, you have no reason to walk through that brush anymore until blue respawns, so it should give Ssumday a lot of knowledge over whenever Dardoch comes back to that top side, and you should be able to keep pushing without dying next time around. We'll see. Nice little stun right there. Keane doing a nice job on his mid lane, up 3 CS right now, and pushing Huhi around, who is just now using his potion.
Yeah, with the cleanse, it's going to be fairly difficult for Team Dignitas to set up the right type of ganks. Do have to note, though, that Shrimp is trying to do his best to take control of this jungle, knowing that Dardoch spends so much time topside. Things in with the Spirit's going to push him off this, but Dardoch did get the big guy, so, and even little ones, so pretty much all the golden experience of this camp still going over to Dardoch.
Even a fortunate leash, the Shrimp couldn't take away the medium Krug, and exactly, he took away, I think, maybe 20 gold, I think is what a medium Krug is worth, so not the most insane. And even though you're seeing Shrimp CS numbers look higher, it's actually not that insane. Ooh, we might look for Huhi. He's got a flash. Yes, he does. Gets away from the skill shots.
Really good spear there by Shrimp, knowing that he had Dardoch cornered in the bottom of his jungle, knows that that gank attempt is fairly free from map pressure. And because he was accurate with the spear, forced Huhi into flashing.
Very smart play right there, and it gives a bit of lane pressure. Keane's going to deny an entire minion wave in the mid lane as a result, so the two of them did a nice job for themselves. CLG only up 300 gold with a roughly 530 gold first blood. A limited assist pool in the early parts of the game. Dardoch didn't get the full 200 for it, but either way, CLG holding on a lead because of that gank. And as we look back at the rest of their lanes, Huhi's now down 13. Darshan's only equal, despite being up the first blood gold, and it's minus 11 in the bot lane. So CLG suffering through some weak laning phase early on. And based on laning phase, you got to give credit to Altec and Adrian for a good start. And with Ignite on, they can look for more, but a nice shield for aphromoo means Stixxay will not go down.
Still has a health potion to burn. He's going to drink that right now, but it's going to be tough for him to stick around in lane. And Dardoch's going to try another gank on the top side. Darshan is 6 and will be hitting Mega as hits the turret, and if Ssumday goes to check for the ward, that would be his demise. So he calls it off, and he's calling for Shrimp to come up as well. They're suspecting something is happening.
Yeah, and Dardoch's kind of calling it off anyway. He's actually right in front of several members, though, seen by a controller. Doesn't know it, though, and doesn't know easily that Syndra's around, but Huhi ping's missing. He actually knows that Syndra's top side. At that point, they know there's no gank to be had, no dive to go for, and out they go. Dardoch, Bomby Syndra is going for that Syndra Hulk Gragas, as you predicted.
Yeah, I think it's the best Gragas build right now, but I want to talk about what Dardoch said before the game, where he said all Team Dignitas does is play around the top side, and you can see that is... He wasn't lying. That's exactly how he feels. So he thinks if he can get Darshan ahead, they win the game, because he doesn't think the rest of Team Dignitas can do much. But what's happening so far is Altec and Adrian are shoving in and winning bottom lane, and Keane got a gank from Shrimp and is now up 20 CS in the mid lane. So this will really be a test. Team Dignitas' lanes are capable of getting these leads, but can they do anything with it?
Sure.
Will be the ultimate test here.
Well, that's what, again, to quote Dardoch, is, yeah, they just flounder around to the end game, and they don't have any cohesion. So we'll see what comes in next, so they can come back to that 5-1 Team Dignitas form, who are in first place for a little bit in this split. We'll see what comes through here. Tied gold game now. The first split actually compensated for all the extra farms that the Team Dignitas lanes have gotten for themselves. Another invade for Shrimp, constantly playing aggressively. We've seen him do this time and again. Part of the reason they had beat TSM back in week 3.
Yeah, and Dardoch doesn't have control of this side of the map. He spent so much time topside, and both his mid and bottom lanes are losing, so Shrimp is within full right and power to go for that. But Keane messes up the red buff steal and trolls Shrimp, who probably would have hit 6 off of that red buff.
Sadly, the patience was a bit too low. It's unlucky for him, and now Keane gonna find a bit more damage on Huhi. He's trying to dodge away, but has very little mana on this Corki. Keane gonna go for the ulti. Decent damage there.
Got no flash.
200 health left on Huhi, and no mana for Valkyrie means he cannot get away, and Cleanse won't mean anything either, and Keane getting himself a solo kill. Huhi was unwilling to run away and unable to.
Quite an easy kill there. Now they go for Stixxay.
Nice flash forced away. Now it's gonna be a hook onto the tank, and Afro should be all right, but we'll lose some health for it. Now again, look at even more damage coming across. 6 versus 6 right here. Shrimp getting a lot of damage. Javelin's coming up right now. Lands it. Here comes the pounce.
Gonna force a flash.
Nah, he didn't want to get body slam in a turret. Body slam in a cap would have been a kill, so correct for Shrimp not to go for it there.
Also got a note though, that Dardoch not running Courage of the Colossus, so he still may have been able to get the kill. Darshan going for a kill.
A lot of damage into Ssumday, and 130 health, but has TP back up. Ssumday might be safe to get back into this one. Shrimp, even if he doesn't get the kill, rewarded for a red buff steal regardless, and looks like Keane cannot stop that. Not going to land the house just yet.
Yeah. Both flashes up for the top laners. Again, Dardoch doesn't have control of the rest of the map. That control ward paying off really well right now.
Yep, second time I spotted Dardoch there. This time around, he will clear it away and then go for his own red buff steal, and looks like Shrimp is far. Actually, Shrimp's coming up. We'll see if he gets to seal it, but Huhi dying from full health, basically.
Yeah, well, he had burned his mana trying to shove the wave, and I think Keane just roamed it in the lane earlier than he expected to. They're still fighting over this red buff. Dardoch low.
Dardoch gets to smite the flame, pulls to the other side of the wall, and he flashes the hook, lands on a Krug, and it means he can still chase through. Javelin's not going to land yet, but Keane gets a 2-man stun. Here comes the chase in, packaged by a bit more time. Lantern for a shield. Dardoch running out of health and no ways to live. He's laid on the ulti. He goes down. Shrimp get himself a kill on the boards. Dignitas up 2-1 now.
Yeah, and I actually credit Adrian for that.
Yeah.
Finding the time to roam into the top side, knowing Dardoch was harassing in the jungle, giving them the numbers advantage for this fight, being able to transition that bottom lane advantage into a top side edge as well, because now that they've killed Dardoch and Darshan is not up in CS because he's pushed back dealing with Shrimp and Keane, all of the lanes in Team Dignitas are equal or winning.
Absolutely agree on that one. Well played then by Team Dignitas, and got to give, again, credit to Adrian, a player who had been honestly maligned a bit for champion pool issues. And I don't remember the last time I saw him play Thresh, but he used to be kind of a Soraka Janna one-trick back when he was the most notable on Immortals, and certainly having a very good game here. Won his lane and even found the time to roam.
Yeah, Adrian as a player is pretty fascinating to me because he has actually been on a lot of winning teams in the past. As Huhi Valks in for Keane.
Done by some time. A flash for Afro to get in a range faster, and a flash to get away for Keane.
Yeah, it's COG trying to take some control. We're going to watch this teleport once again. So Renekton teleports in as Adrian comes in. The blast cone interactions were a little hilarious, but the chase continues because they do have the numbers advantage. And the big kicker, on top of being able to push them back with the Thresh, was the fact that Ssumday had ulted in from the backside, which cut off COG's retreat paths, and they pick up the 1 kill, and then, more importantly, gain control of this side of the map where it had previously been lost.
Absolutely. So you were talking about Adrian and how fascinating he is as a player.
Yeah, exactly, because he's been on so many winning teams, but you get to hear, I'd almost want to call it gossip or rumors of Adrian not being a very motivated player, and then that partially is backed up by the fact that he's been on so many different teams. But I think he's had high enough highs that if he is in a motivated place in the right environment for him, he can still be very successful. So I'm very curious to see if Team Dignitas is that place for him. This is obviously the first time we're seeing him this split on Team Dignitas, but Altec is a player he is familiar with, and they're able to win the 2v2 lane with the right champion picks. And if this is an environment with which he can succeed, I can see Team Dignitas trying to make a bounce back with that bottom lane duo.
Right, what I find interesting about Adrian is he's often found himself on successful teams as well. Right, he was on the initial 17-1 Immortals run or whatever, and he's found himself in a lot of very strong places. And the question is he just getting care of a good teammates, or is he actually good himself? And that was never a very obviously answered question, because he was always just a laning phase sort of enchanter player who just buffed up the carries.
I mean, he was on Team Impulse.
Yeah.
If we want to go back to 2015, and they nearly finished third in the summer split back in 2015. And that was back when people thought he was a Leona player.
Right.
And he pulled out Soraka in Madison Square Garden. So definitely a lot of history behind this guy, and I never want to count Adrian out.
So far, it looks like CLG shouldn't either right now. 1,200 gold lead for Team Dignitas now up in Game 1 against Counterlogic Gaming. And again, leads everywhere, 30 in the mid lane, 24 in the bot lane. Darshan's still getting a farm lead himself, and he hasn't died, so at least that's something going well, and maybe CLG can leverage that a bit later on, but it is exactly one winning matchup out of 4 right here in this, and CLG may be running out of room. We'll see if their mid-game shot-calling buff pays off, if they can outmaneuver Team Dignitas, but so far it hasn't looked like it.
Yeah, it'll be a matter of how good is Darshan's Gnar, and also how good is CLG's team fighting with the composition of a strong front line and 2 big damage dealers in the backside. Obviously, CLG's played a lot of different compositions. This is one of the most standard things we have seen them play. And then it's going to be a matter of whether or not Team Dignitas can land the right CC in the right places, get through the tank line, get access to Huhi and Stixxay in those late game fights.
Looks like Huhi's waiting around for a package to spawn here in a second. Or he's waiting for ambient gold for Sheen or something. Goes the package, onto the mid lane he goes. My first guess was right. All right.
Zoom, zoom.
Zoom, zoom. Played Corki 2 times in the last year, so I still know the cooldown. That's roughly how it works. And 13.5 minutes in, we'll see if they can make a nice mid-lane play. Huhi definitely known for his roaming, definitely known for affecting the side lanes. That was a silly CS to miss, but he's going bot lane now.
Yeah, I mean, with the package, you always want to try and make a play in a jungle, but they have lost so much control that it's really difficult to find the right spot. Just look at the river and the control wards that Team Dignitas has in that bottom side. aphromoo is going to try and go get one, but this is a dangerous play in itself. He could get hit by a Nidalee spear while clearing this.
Oh, and there it is.
That'll be trouble.
Nostradamus Jat.
I saw the Nidalee before.
Yeah.
So I cheated.
That's okay. You're still right. That's all that really matters here in this one. 1,000 gold apart, though, still, and looks like the laning phase is maybe slowing down a bit. Huhi wants to the top lane now, but Darshan is very much mini Gnar here, gets a knockback, gets a stun. Huhi's got to be careful. Gets pushed away from the turret just now, so has to flash out as well, but Ssumday, going to have HP, the flash, the chase down, the Hyper's going to land, and Darshan getting himself a second kill. CLG ties up the score, but mid going to go down for Team Dignitas. First turret goal is going to be a swing of 1,000.
Man, CLG's focus around that top lane is so pronounced. Dardoch spending almost all of his time there, Huhi using both of his packages actually on the top side, but the efficiency trade isn't there. The bottom lanes for Team Dignitas get 2, CLG get 1. So now we're seeing a pretty big gold lead open up for Team Dignitas.
2,000 right here as we crest the 15-minute mark into this one. Very well played early game of Team Dignitas. We can watch this dive again, though. That's who he pulls Dagger when he dives in.
Yeah, as far as dives go, they made it work. They go in right as the last minion goes. He cleanses the stun from Renekton, able to drop turret aggro. It goes right back onto Darshan, and then he's able to finish him off with that final auto attack and the proc of the 3-hit passive. So it was a good dive. It's just a matter of the timing in the game means since he was up there, they lose the mid lane turret, and the bottom lane turret was almost losing naturally to the Kalista Thresh, so that turret was going to go down anyway. So they may as well get the kill for turret trade, and you can still argue that that works. It's just the state of the game was such that CLG paid the cost of them losing the mid and the bottom lane.
Yeah, absolutely the case here. And well, we're going to find a little bit of a CC on Adrian, who doesn't have an easy way out. Kalista's pretty close in range, and there we go. Altec gets in range, pops the ulti, Fate's Call, gets him out.
Oh, the joys of playing with Kalista if you're a support player. A dangerous ward cleared there by Adrian, since they were going alone into territory which had previously been claimed by CLG, so CLG had the control wards in that side of the map. Now, no Fate's Call, a low health Adrian means CLG wants to start up that Rift Herald.
I want to point out that people are slowly learning better and better how to play around Rift Herald themselves. You saw Dardoch aggro it from the mouth of the pit and then walk 90 degrees to the side to make sure it went away from the wall to find like the back hits a bit more easily.
Right.
Now, at the same time, Shrimp showed up, so they got to back away. But you look at those takes compared to takes from like a couple months ago, and it's going to look a lot cleaner in today's game. Just
where Rift Herald was stacked on the side of the pit, and they would like
they can't get the weakness anymore and everything else. Yeah. Shrimp going to be doing battle with the mutated and the regular version of Scuttle Crab. Kills the one, and it makes the Rift Scuttler angry. Not really, though. It's just going to waste away and do no damage.
Yeah, it does like 40 damage a hit.
Yeah, that's pretty really easy to kill.
It's a very armored crab. Fights like a turtle without the teeth. Because turtles bite really hard. But
didn't know.
Yeah, gotta watch out for that.
Are there any turtles that aren't herbivores?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
Yeah. As far as my turtle knowledge goes, they bite sometimes.
I guarantee there's a zoologist watching who knows. And
a zoologist?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people watching. Even though the TSM's in the stream, there's still some. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out today.
Yeah, snapping turtles eat fish, I've just been informed.
All right, thanks very much. See, there you go.
Some of them are pescatarian.
Didn't even need his wallet just for that. I know we appreciate the information. We learn things every day here. 2,300 gold puts Team Dignitas ahead, and we'll see if they can keep that one going. Infernal Drake spawns. They got the Ocean Drake back in the 11:30 mark, and now at 17:3 they're grabbing the Infernal as well. I gotta say, this is a pretty nice smattering of Drakes. The sub 15 Ocean is super strong for laning phase, and then Infernal, as everyone knows, tends to be the best, so feels pretty good right here.
Yeah, this is actually the perfect order with which you'd want Drakes to come down. Next one, you'd actually want Mountain, since you'd already have a lead.
Nah, you want a second Infernal.
Perfect.
Mountain's overrated, Jack.
Oh, Cloud.
Oh, still great!
Still good!
All right, no Mountains this game.
And you can see Team CLG actually falling pretty far behind in pressure, because even if they see the Drake is taken, by no means can they get started on the Rift Herald, because the rotation is already coming up the river from Team Dignitas. So this is, again, the test. Does Team Dignitas know what they're doing? Can they win the game? Because they have Drake control. They even have a Kalista for good objective control with the Drakes that will continue to stack, or the Baron, and they have a lot of tools to catch people while CLG is trying to gain Fog of War vision. So CLG played a game yesterday where they didn't necessarily have great scaling, but they had the Thresh and all the CC tools, and they dominated Echo Fox. They found pick after pick, and they ended up winning the game. CLG now on the other side of that coin. We'll see if Team Dignitas can starve them out.
Well, I know in the early part of the split, Team Dignitas Barons became a positive thing. They were actually very, very good at those major objective plays, and they used to be very good at closing games out. We'll see if that continues on here. Package used by Huhi to try to buy some time to zone the squad out as they want to take down this one, but Shrimp is around. Smite might going to come in, and it's going to be Huhi who grabs it. Smite not used by anyone. And they got to kite away from the possible stuns. Big chunk of Huhi half HP onto him, and a Lantern pulls Shrimp down to the mid lane. Looks like Team Dignitas have to give away Rift Herald and will simply settle for mid lane pressure.
I really like that use of the package by Huhi.
Me too.
It was very Talia Wall-esque, so while you can technically walk over it, it does so much damage and has such a powerful slow attached to it, it would have meant a lost fight for Team Dignitas, so it was a very strong Rift Herald too.
Absolutely agree on this one. And compared to, like, ooh, nice smite by Dardoch. Oh, hook, not going to quite land. That could have been a death knell for Huhi. He would have had to use Cleanse. But still would have been a summoner spell down, and maybe the next time would have been a bit better. So cool stuff. A nice little play right there by CLG, getting at least one objective for themselves, and not too long before that would have despawned beforehand. Smite fight once again, and Afro actually able to grab the red with an auto attack, as Dardoch was a slightly early smite here.
Yeah, well, actually, I believe Dardoch didn't have smite. It was Shrimp who really smote, and that's how aphromoo ended up securing it. And these are little things. Dardoch stealing away the Raptor, aphromoo securing red, the Rift Herald being secured by the package, and now Huhi using it in the bot lane. But all of these things are allowing CLG to stick around, because Team Dignitas doesn't actually have that big lead, and this is the moment in the game where they would want to snowball it. So these things can be very important in the overall result of the game, and now CLG is going to try and push bot lane and get a good chunk on that turret.
A lot of health down right now, and Darshan probably is pretty safe to keep hitting this one. He's going to choose to trade against Ssumday, but I don't know, I might have liked autos in the turret just itself to knock that thing down. I think a bit of a slow roll by CLG, but might be still okay. Ssumday down half HP, below 1,000. And as long as a new wave gets into reinforce, Darshan should knock this one down, so might work out in the end.
Yeah, I think at the time he didn't have enough vision and had to worry about Shrimp coming around the backside or something.
Yeah.
And now they see them, so he's going to finish that turret anyway.
Yeah, Team Dignitas very proactive in the top side of the map, looking for a steal onto the blue buff. This one I think will work out properly for them. Darshan will still get the bot lane, so it works out in the end for him. He made some good plays, and yes, blue buff goes over to Shrimp. They grabbed that one nicely, and Altec took down top lane outer, so anytime CLG goes for anything, Team Dignitas already there to match it somewhere else, and seem to be ahead on the play.
Yeah, and now we'll have to watch where Team Dignitas goes to set up their vision and how many control wards they're able to place. The double health crystal by Ssumday means he is no longer a control ward purchaser. I want to see a control ward on Altec, Adrian, Keane, and Shrimp. The dagger is not what I was hoping for, because it is very important that they can starve out the vision from CLG at Baron, and instead of doing the Baron, just kill someone on CLG who's trying to check, because if they do get the CC start, they can win that, and then they can force with Kalista to try and get Baron and ultimately win the game. So that is Team Dignitas' win condition, and the longer it takes for them to do that, I think the higher chance that CLG will just win, because I think CLG outscales, and they're just trying to prevent Team Dignitas from getting a larger gold.
So we'll see if Team Dignitas can start these bait. Only 2 kills to 2 so far, but Team Dignitas have done a better job of farming and knocking turrets down. 2,600 gold lead for the red squad here as they're pushing in the mid lane, right? They got mid priority. They got a ward in that brush or that lane as well to track where Corki goes after the wave has fallen. And over they go to that top lane river. Altec's got top lane pushed in, so 2 of the 3 lanes have pressure. You got a pretty nice smattering of control wards. There's no easy way for CLG to sneak wards in to watch the pit. You can see those 3 in a line. That river is controlled in more ways than one. CLG gonna hope to push back on the mid lane, but they've got to respect Keane. And they got to respect that hook from Adrian.
Yep, hook goes wide. So that's another cooldown that COD doesn't have to worry about. It also reveals where they were temporarily and allows them to kind of go back into the wave clear pattern. And while all this is happening, the Gnar is at that point with Frozen Mallet Black Cleaver where there's no way Ssumday can 1v1.
Yeah.
And it will actually be a chipping battle down on that turret because Darshan's going to get a couple hits every time he walks up with Mini Gnar and slowly whittle away.
And that's kind of the race, right? Is how quickly can Team Dignitas actually get Baron control versus how quickly can Darshan get himself down to the eventual inhibitor turret, slowly but surely wearing these things down. And you've got these 2 conflicting forces and neither one are interacting. It's kind of just 2 different races on either side of the map. Team Dignitas can choose to come down, but they'd give up Baron control to do so. They could go for Cloud Drake at 25. They'd give up Baron control to do so. Dardoch gonna get away from the hook once again, and back we are to the mid lane holding pattern of nothing going on.
Yeah, that's 2 Fog of War sidesteps that Dardoch has pulled off over Adrian, so really winning the mind games there because you don't get to see the hook. You just think they will be here. He will try and hook me now, so I need to be erratic with my movements while I'm around this spot. Yep. And it's been successful, and this is answering our question of, is one winning Gnar greater than a winning mid and bottom lane? And it's whether or not CLG can play around their advantage or Team Dignitas can play around theirs.
Well, it's one winning Gnar against 4 winning Team Dignitas members. The question is, do Dignitas know what they're doing? And so far, they are slower than just Darshan. And that's 1 turret down so far with the same 3 control wards. That state hasn't changed since that turret went, was at full health right here. So Dignitas still looking for the way to go in, but right now they're kind of just half playing ARAM, and once again, they're going to walk up to the river.
Yeah, so they got mid lane priority now. Now do they go deep into the Baron pit and control? The problem is they haven't been playing this back and forth, so there's still a scrying orb that Stixxay can place. He's going to place that very soon. Yep, because they know the Baron is under threat. 5,000 health, that means they can start moving in. This could be the fight.
And they're going to go for the big knockup. aphromoo gets on a 2. They find Adrian. Fate's Call brings him right back out. Who's he going to jump onto? And Keane staying on the Baron. Will they go for the Ren? Dardoch wants in. He's going to try to knock back the team. 2,100 on the Baron, and Dardoch is gone. It's going to reset and heal back up, but here comes Ssumday into the fight, and Darshan just now TP's in. Ooh. He's about 4 seconds after Ssumday, and it's a 4v5. Now the flash stun. Huhi gets away with the cleanse. Ssumday going to get dropped down. 4v4. aphromoo low on health. Has to kite back, then forward, then back, then forward. Double kill for Huhi, but it's a trade kill. It's 3-on-3 now into this fight as Team Dignitas now going to walk back towards the mid lane. How safe does Darshan feel? Huhi reasonably healthy himself, and Stixxay the same. End of the day, it's a trade of TPs, and at least Baron got stopped for CLG, a trade of kills.
Yeah, wild fight, and one of the deciding moments in the game if that swings wildly in either direction. Couple things that we need to point out in this fight is initially I think CLG was just trying to stop the Baron and disengage because watch Darshan, he doesn't TP, he continues to push with Mini Gnar, but then when they realize the Team Dignitas isn't stopping Baron, Dardoch goes in for the steal and that almost forces CLG to teleport, even though once they disengage the Baron, Darshan could have canceled. He chooses to complete, so they jump in even though Dardoch is already down because they are confident in their 5v5 team fighting once he is there. It pays off with a double kill onto Huhi. They turn the 1 kill loss from Dardoch into an even 2-for-2 fight, and crucially, they get rid of all of the control wards the Team Dignitas had in that side of the Baron. Remember the 3-minute sequence where they had to set all of those up? They now have to do that again.
They do, and this time those that teleport up for either top laner. We'll see which one that favors in the near future. Huhi heading away from Ssumday, better damage coming across on a Shrimp as well, and looks like CLG feeling comfortable having Darshan stick with the team this time around because of that non-TP situation. As they continue to fight for mid lane priority, looks like this will be clear almost equally here as that wave goes down to a quick shot from the rapid fire cannon of Huhi. Ooh, gonna find themselves across the brush. Ulti gonna miss out from Stixxay though. Chains of Corruption mean nothing, and Dardoch choked a bit low, forced to kite back as well. No armor onto him, so does have to respect Kalista and Renekton quite a bit as one of the major tanks on Counter Logic Gaming. Here comes Huhi, gonna find himself flashing away from Adrian, wants the hook, not gonna find it. Huhi juked right, he gets left. There's a bunch of CC, and Adrian should die for this one, but how about the re-engage as Altec knocked almost back in. QSS and flashes right back away. Darshan finding some pressure on the side. He's down Mega Gnar. Here comes the ulti, he's gonna find Altec. That's a kill picked up, 2-for-0 CLG, and it looks like the team fighting prowess of the #1 team will still not be underestimated. They're gonna find a slow one to Keane. Dardoch cutting back one more time. aphromoo got a juke away from the Javelin. And a 3v5 is not a great fight for Dignitas, but they got the poke and looks like they're okay for now.
And this is why, one of the reasons I think Gnar is so good, because if you have Fiora, you can whittle down the turrets in the side lane, but as soon as your TP is down, the other team has the advantage. Gnar is actually good in both situations. So Darshan gets off a massive Gnar in that fight, which does turn the table. Although the beginning of the fight, I think, does fall on Adrian for his wildly inaccurate skill shots. There was a whole clump of people. His hook went not towards the clump of people, and then he ends up dying for it because Altec sees the play. And I think this is a good play, forcing the flash. And if Adrian actually lands the hook, procs his courage with the Colossus Shield, he has a slightly higher chance of surviving, but the team wasn't necessarily there to support him either, especially when he misses his hook and doesn't provide any CC. Pops off the trip, smacks Altec around. The QSS is basically useless in that scenario, and they pick up 2 kills.
And Dignitas tried with the chase back, but it wasn't going to happen. The Ocean Drake gave him some regen, didn't matter though. So gold now only within 400. CLG doing a great job of catching back up here with team fighting skill, and it's Darshan who's been involved in basically all of it. Props to him for a very well played Gnar. Got the counter pick on the Renekton, and he's been the primary reason to win. A bit ironic considering Dardoch said, oh yeah, Dignitas only know how to play around top lane and nothing else, and it's CLG using Darshan as their primary win condition.
Yeah, well, because they say if Ssumday's not carrying, then there's no way they can win, is actually what they're saying.
Sure, sure.
That theory is somewhat being proved here, as long as he stays alive.
Darshan getting shunked really low, and he's mini for a while, but in comes the package. Huhi in the back lines, pulling a bit of a Stixxay from yesterday and drops down, doing almost nothing. A stun's gonna land. They might find aphromoo, and they will. 2 for 0 over aggression from Counterlogic Gaming. Quickly punished by Team Dignitas, and now they have control of the Baron Pit.
Every once in a while, that happens with CLG. Someone just gets too ambitious, and that's a huge, seemingly random swing in the game, because CLG didn't actually have a strategic reason to do that, other than just getting a little lazy against Team Dignitas, who changed the CC. Baron goes over to them for that. Not because they set up perfect control ward coverage and sieged it out for 5 minutes, but because they were able to get a few kills.
CLG putting on a comedy of errors here, but they're going to back out. They get mid lane outer for something. Watch that fight again.
Yeah, basically, Darshan just trying to poke. Finally, Adrian gets that death sentence. Huhi decides to split them with the package, but Altec and Adrian this time are true with their attempt to get Huhi since he had burned his flash the last time. Ironically, Darshan does not die, even though he was the initial one to get hooked.
Yep.
But even then, it's still 2,000 gold.
And it's up to Team Dignitas to use the Baron well. You're seeing the damage output there. A surprising 0 out of a Varus, but again, if the goal is, oh, we lost the fight, just run away, I think that's fine. And it's not like Stixxay would have somehow won the fight with the Huhi killing himself regardless. Quick Cloud Drake, quick Cloud Drake picked up for Team Dignitas here. That one stayed on the map for about 6 minutes, but of course no one really cares about those in pro play. And
it also times Elder to come up at 36, which is favorable for Team Dignitas since they want to use the Kalista objective control before CLG can scale up to a 6-item Corki and 6-item Varus. So if they were intentionally doing that, I actually like it.
It actually makes it spawn the same time as Baron, though. It'll actually be contemporaries, which I feel like helps the losing team. And you can trade instead of giving away both, you know, with like a sequential spawn. We'll see, though, if that actually comes in through. Either way, mid lane tier 2 falls. Team Dignitas doing a nice job with that one, stretching their gold lead now to 2,700. And looking at bot lane tier 2, his wave is already coming in. Top lane right now at roughly equilibrium, though it should slightly push towards CLG at the end of it all. And here comes Kalista and the rest of that squad looking at the bot lane turret. There's Keane as well, and that's going to be bot lane 2-2 gone now. 5-4 in turrets. Dignitas once again holding the turret lead up 4,000.
Yeah, and if a hook lands on the right target, Team Dignitas could win with the size of this minion wave, but they would have to land it, and CLG's still in a good position to defend.
Puts the shield up, takes enough damage for now, and it's going to be the first wave cleared away. Meanwhile, Ssumday's in the mid lane getting some decent damage down. Dardoch finds him. Adrian there for the lantern. If he needs it, shouldn't. Body Slam's going to land. No reason to explosive cask of Renekton. He's too tanky. Ssumday saying, I don't need a lantern. We're fine here.
Yeah, he's also not going with the standard Renekton build, so there's no Hydra or Tiamat on him. He's gone very tanky.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like he was going to lose to Darshan anyway, so he just wants to die more slowly.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a lost pick in that case, because the Renekton no longer has the kill pressure in the mid-game teamfights. It is pretty much just a tank, so I think that's another thing that could swing for CLG in late-game teamfights if they're able to start them in a 5v5.
Yeah, if they needed a different damage out of Ssumday for the teamfight. We'll see what happens, though. Certainly, Altec and Keane have been holding up their fair share of the bargain so far, but we'll see what comes in later on to this one. 4,000 gold lead. Team Dignitas pushing now for top lane tier 2, hoping for their 6th turret of the game. The Sentinels drop down, give away a couple of gold. A little poke onto aphromoo. Here comes comes the next wave. Cannon already here as Team Dignitas healing up with Altec's lifesteal, and Ocean to keep them topped off. Shrimp around the wings, gonna land not quite that javelin. And they're all a little bit too afraid to go for the turret right here. They are afraid of a body slam flash from Dardoch, and for good reason, to be honest. The ranged squishies are not hitting the turret much, so CLG buying a lot of time here with their defense.
Yeah, Darshan also in a pretty good spot from a rage bar perspective. If the fight did break out, he'd probably be able to mega during the fight, which is something Team Dignitas has to respect.
They do.
Baron gone.
Leader. All right, so Baron buff time's out. 3.5 minutes, I believe, until it's going to respawn with the 3.5 duration. Similar timer for the Elder Dragon coming back up. We'll see if Team Dignitas do much more with this one. They managed to get, I believe it was 2 turrets with the Baron push, mid and bot lane tier 2 both. That's pretty solid. Baron power play pretty reasonable there. Still pretty low kill game, 6 apiece. The poke continuing. Infinite mana thanks to a blue buff and that Ocean on Shrimps. He's pretty happy. Finds a bit of damage onto a cannon minion this time around. CLG dodging behind their minion line for skill shot block, and Huhi has the package. And he's going to go around the side looking for maybe a flank, but Team Dignitas saying, no, you know what? We've got all this gold from the push. Let's buy items.
Yeah, Huhi actually cleared out a massive wave in the bottom lane while CLG were defending that turret without the Baron buff on Team Dignitas. So a successful hold at the very end, keeping the Baron power play at a very reasonable point for Team Dignitas and keeping this game close. So once again, we do kind of have to go back to the CLG thesis coming into this game. Hey, if Darshan beats Ssumday, we win. And this is one of the biggest tests we can have to that, because you obviously don't plan as CLG, oh, let's just have everywhere else lose and be fine. But if they actually do win this game, it makes that statement so true, because Team Dignitas did have Ssumday behind, and they did have Keane, Shrimp, Altec, and Adrian ahead, and they've been able to get 1 Baron out of that. They've been able to get 3 Drakes out of that, but none of that matters if you don't kill the Nexus. And
I agree.
There's not really much they can do about it if it doesn't work, but it will be definitely a very bad sign for them going forward.
I agree completely. We'll see if that sign can turn around, or will it open up their eyes? Team Dignitas hoping that if they see the signs, they can turn it around sometime at the end of the season. 4,000 gold still separating the 2 squads as CLG able to get right back out of their base. Baron buff spawning in 132 on Baron, 126 on Elder Dragon. Just giving the numbers out there for those listening with audio only. I read that thread. Thanks, guys. And looking now at the mid lane priority. Who's going to push this one out? Let's see if CLG can put control in on their own side. Team Dignitas have basically 4 times as many reasons to knock down the Elder Dragon. CLG would get on the losing end of that trade if they took Elder for Baron, but Team Dignitas wouldn't be as adversely affected. Changes the priorities of these squads. CLG pretty much only going to play around Baron as a result. They don't want the consolation prize of Elder. Wouldn't help them too much. Darshan kills away a ward. They have a control ward on that bottom river. Hook onto Dardoch means a lot of damage. The ulti coming across as well, but the shield comes in, and aphromoo keeps him safe. Here comes the attack as Altec throws in Adrian. Going to look for the Gnar, not going to find it though. The front line's able to kite back on both sides. No ulti yet popped for Ssumday, but he's got a rage bar available. Stun's going to land onto Darshan as well, but he's fine.
Yeah, aphromoo goes in for a big-time save onto Dardoch, who then, after the CC, was able to proc his Gargoyle Stone Plate and survive. Does mean, though, they are without a Varus ult, a Braum ult, and also a flash, but they burned multiple ults on the other side as well, so still anyone's game.
They find the stun, and Huhi, the hook's gonna land on aphromoo. Crucially, he's gonna go down and never gets to do much with it. Doesn't even exhaust a target, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Team Dignitas just kited back regardless, so maybe smart to save that summoner spell, but now a 5v4, no support for CLG.
When the Q hits, Adrian hasn't landed many, but they have counted. And this is that moment you're talking about, Freak. Baron up as Elder's up. So if Team Dignitas go for the Baron, can they stop the Elder? They want to be able to do both. aphromoo is dead. They're trying to stop with Keane and Adrian and secure with the other 3, but CLG, it's a bait.
Does it trap them here? Darshan on the backside, he finds a slow on Adrian. I think he's guaranteed to die unless Altec can come down for Fate's Call, and he's not kiting back, so Adrian will lose his life, and it's Baron for 1 kill. Baron is gone though right away, and Dignitas might be in map control this time around, with both supports dead to fight for Elder Dragon once again. CLG, yet again to start it.
This is very risky. Dignitas can make it here. Gnar is in the brush. They want to fight.
What are they going to find for themselves? Cutting back and forth, looking for the skill shots. Darshan finding the Gnar to keep it. He cleanses, flashes away, and stays alive. But here comes Dardoch, but doesn't get the kill he wants. That's going to be an easy right, and a pickup goes through to Altec. and that's the jungler gone, and now CLG forced to kite, but Stixxay not long for the world. Satchel plants over, the flash for Ssumday kills him off regardless, and Huhi looks for the duel, not gonna find the win. He's gonna get shut down, a double kill for Altec, and that is 4 now consecutive kills for Team Dignitas. Afterwards respawn, Darshan somewhere on the map, but it's gonna be all the map control Team Dignitas want. They're gonna go right away for bot lane, screw the dragon, kill the Nexus.
35 seconds.
What a TP.
Trying to hold the minion whip up. He will cancel that.
Yeah, but it buys 4 seconds.
4 seconds. Keep that 4 seconds in mind because it's a race against death timers. The inhibitor will definitely fall. It's the question of how many Nexus turrets can they get.
Well, here's inhibitor turret number 1. No chance to defend this one. It's a 5v2 theoretically on the map as Adrian was running down the mid lane. It's a 4v2 on this push. 12 seconds on Stixxay, 8 on Dardoch though. Nexus turret number 1 under fire. Attack comes in for aphromoo, puts in the ulti. Looking to buy some slows, looking to stun up and buy a little bit of time, but aphromooo's running out of health now as turret number 1 has fallen. He's dead now. Turret number 2 gonna drop as well, and here comes the Varus. Dardoch is in there as well. They're gonna find somebody in the front lines. Those 4 seconds might have been enough, but they find the back line. Stixxay, 1 hit from dead. Altec kills him off, and shut down to the jungler as well, and Team Dignitas able to win the late game team fight, able to shut down the turrets, and the rage of Darshan doesn't matter. The Gnar falls for the first time all game, and in 38 minutes, Team Dignitas take game 1 over CLG.
Team Dignitas pull it out in the end. They find the right hooks at the right moment, and they win a game where Ssumday was behind the entire time. Something they have not been able to do often this split. So the subbing in of Adrian, his first game, his first win, now the test becomes, can they win the series?
And I think that looks like a solid maybe. And I know that sounds so weird, but when you're 5-5 against 9-2, and it's like, yeah, you've got a decent shot at this series. That's unusual. When you lost 4 matches in a row, including losing to, what, the 2-7 FlyQuest in the last week, you're not likely to go against the 9-2 team afterwards, right? So certainly things looked up. I thought bot lane smashed super hard, and you can do the little like peanut gallery thing and say, oh, but CLG leashed the red buff a bit hard and lost 2 CS for it. 2 CS is not 24 CS in first turret, ostensibly first turret on that point, because that one died in the straight 2-on-2. Great stuff out of Altec and Adrian in the landing phase. Keane won mid lane, solo killed Huhi. His only help was a flash got forced once, thanks to an shrimp gank, which, hey, matters, but was still a much better played landing phase by Keane. And yeah, CLG, to all their credit, they put emphasis on Darshan, but made a lot of mistakes in team fights.
Yeah, and then, I mean, even just looking at the priorities from the draft phase, we praised Huhi in the draft phase for drawing bans on Vel'Koz and Aurelion Sol and saying, now he gets to play the meta picks. If you can win with them, it's good. If not, those are very good targeted bans by Team Dignitas. So getting Keane in a winning matchup, huge. That guy has been struggling during the losing streak. And we say it every time. When Keane and, we used to say when Keane and Laud go off, Dignitas wins. Because someday, you can't actually solo carry that team in a lot of situations. So this is how Team Dignitas do need to win if they're going to win. And it's a good step forward.
Definitely is a good step. We have replays to show you guys. First up is going to be that CLG pick on Adrian, right in that sort of middle objective trade, but it turned into Team Dignitas winning the team fight overall.
Yeah, really huge moment right here as Adrian and Keane were really just trying to stop the Elder Drake from going over, and they did. So yeah, Adrian died, but the fact that 2 people were able to stop 4, I think CLG messed up here.
Yeah,
in a big way.
Seconds.
Because I think they could have actually just killed the Elder Drake and then forced Syndra into burning curl downs and tried to kill Syndra then. Because at this point, when you wait, you're now
4v4 against Baron.
Yeah, and the Keane did a whole bunch of damage. It is a 4v4, as we mentioned, without supports. And Dignitas is winning at this point as well. So not a full tank line that can actually do much. Stixxay and Huhi get bounced around. Altec is still very fed at that point, and Team Dignitas has a lot of CC. And they get to have their cake and eat it too. They don't need the Elder Drake. They again make the correct call to rush the Nexus. Yeah. They have, within the margin of error, enough time to finish it off, and they get the win.
And hey, that's smart as well. Like I know there's players and teams out there who will make the wrong call in that situation where it's like, okay, we got the kill right in front of an Elder Dragon. It's like, no, we have enough time to win the game. And it was correct by about 5 seconds, right? The margin wasn't very large. It wasn't super obvious. You can see it was a 38-minute game. Those are not insane death timers. The entire team wasn't dead. That was a questionable call that was clearly right in the end, and it means that they were smart to do so, but it was not insanely obvious.
Yeah, and it is harder to do this against CLG than it is against other teams.
Yes.
CLG sticks around, in my opinion, this split better than any other team in North America. So the fact that CLG was sticking around, they were doing their thing, and then Team Dignitas still able to jump over them.
Yep.
Good job by them.
They definitely good on that one. Definitely some mistakes out of Logic Gaming, but still a well-played Team Dignitas win, one that was deserved, winning in 4 of the 5 roles, and then finally snowballing that into the victory, capitalizing on mistakes, making good calls in the end, and props to them for the victory. Now we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, it's time for Game 2 between Team Dignitas and Logic Gaming. So stick around. There are highlights to check out as Jat and Kobe are going to take up our most recent edition of This or That.
No, for me it's socks, bro. I got my Superman socks on. We haven't lost with the Superman socks yet.
Body slam's gonna land into the stun from Gnar. There's not any HP left, and there's no way out for Ssumday. Tries to slice, but no dice. He's gone. Here comes the chase in, packaged to buy a bit more time. Lantern for a shield. Dardoch running out of health and no ways to live.
Careful, help Jay, help Jay. I'm fine. Renekton. I got him. I got him. He's nice. I got him. Renekton. Keep going. Kalista. Nice. Let's go. I'm doing them. Corki. Braum. Bear.
Satchel plants over. The flash for Ssumday kills him off regardless, and Huhi looks for the duel. Not gonna find the win. He's gonna get shut down. A double kill for Altec.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to This or That.
Nice to be back in North America.
Germany for a week, and now we're back. We didn't get to do an episode before Rift Rival.
Yeah, we're in and out.
Yeah, also, I think the rules joke is dead. We have 5 slides today, and we're going to get right into it.
Thank God, let's go.
Yeah, tired of telling that joke. Rift Rivals, question mark, Worlds preview, or a happy accident?
First of all, it was not, I actually don't like either of these, because it was definitely not a happy accident.
It's a mix between the two.
I don't think it was a Worlds preview though, because Worlds is so far away, and there were other regions that are going to be at Worlds.
Exactly.
Namely Korea.
Worlds is so different, right? Rift Rivals was this small concoction of regions against each other. Like, this includes LCK, LPL. I think it does make Worlds more exciting, especially for the LPL, because they were able to take some games off Korea and won the best of 5, technically winning that Rift Rivals. And NA is also happy about it, but it's not a Worlds preview. So I like Bob Ross. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to go with this one, which is actually that.
Yeah, because I just can't call it a preview because it's such a small conflict of regions.
I abstained for the first time. I'm going to abstain, actually.
What we have seen is that if NA played only EU at Worlds, we would be the world champions. So in that way, it's a Worlds preview. We're going to get to the next slide. I said that. Kobe, you're not allowed to abstain. Better win condition, mid-jungle synergy, or wards?
Interesting, because these are both important things, obviously.
Yeah. But what would be more important? So here's the thing.
They're so different.
Yeah, like mid-jungle synergy, if there was no synergy at all, you could still have jungle top synergy, jungle bot synergy, but without any wards, I think you probably lose every pro game ever.
Also, synergy means that both parts together are greater than the individual sums of those. The sum of those parts is better than just the individuals put right side by side.
Yeah.
So you can operate without mid-jungle synergy if you have a good mid laner and a good jungler. They can be independent and you can still find success.
Do you remember
you can't operate without wards.
Do you remember beta where wards didn't exist for that brief moment in time?
I do not.
Yeah,
actually.
it was terrible.
Remember.
People just ran around with 4 people and just appeared in your lane and you were dead constantly. It was awful.
I would say this is better. Oh, right. I mean, this is better because you cannot win without wards. You can win without.
Technically a better win condition.
Jungle.
That twice in a row. Slide number 3 coming up. Bigger surprise: LPL winning or P1 going 4-2?
What the heck? Quickshot tweeted out something similar.
It's different.
This is close, so this is not as offensive as Quickshot's tweet. I got triggered a little bit by that because Quickshot said what was more a bigger surprise was the LPL winning or NA winning.
Yeah.
And I was
people thought Phoenix 1 was going 0-6 or like 1-5 or 2-4
yeah.
best.
The actual score of Phoenix 1 is very surprising. I have, however, say I'm just so accustomed to Korea. There's no chance. Even in best of ones, I was like, all right, even though the format is pretty risky and there's a chance for upsets, Korea's still going to win for sure.
Yes, the LPL did beat Korea at 2015 MSI, right? EDG took an SKT, but it's just Korea is so unbelievably dominant in this sport. To even consider them losing in what is technically a best of 5, even though it's a series of best of 1s.
Meanwhile, though, 8th place North American team over here.
It's still not nearly as crazy as I feel like this was. I was much more surprised.
They showed improvements. They beat Immortals. You know, they got new players in, so they're going to get better as time goes on. So I think that is the bigger surprise. LPL winning.
You're mixing up your verbiage like crazy.
I'm pointing at one.
You're still on German time, so everything's upside down. Anyway, slide number 4. We're both say this. LPL was crazy. Better performance, Doublelift or Bjergsen? I'm going to say better Rift Rivals performance.
Ooh. They were both really good. I was a big fan, especially in the finals, of doubleless positioning. When he was playing Ashe, the Ashe arrow accuracy, but then his team fighting on that champion as well, when you're facing so much dive and he doesn't have a dash for himself, it's going to slightly edge me over to doublelift, but that Galio, though.
Yeah, I mean, Bjergsen and both these guys I think played great. I mean, you're going to have to when you go 8-1 against Europe, but I actually put doublelift as my vote for player of the series against UOL, even though Svenskeren won it. I'm going to go with doublelift because I thought he was
you voted for Biofrost?
Solid the whole time. I voted for doublelift, actually. Other people voted for Biofrost, and then more people voted for Svenskeren. So
regardless, for the slide, I'm going to choose this. Yeah. I got it.
Me too. You did it, finally. Final slide. We'll see if he can maintain his streak of 1 in a row, correct this or that. Lamer EU comeback. See what Worlds or this tournament doesn't matter.
I think this is the lamest one. This tournament doesn't matter. All the teams going into it talked, well, not even all the teams. Players, casters, fans, everybody from Europe, everybody who isn't even from Europe but was a fan of the teams, talk so much trash that to then, after you lose, say that the tournament doesn't matter.
Right.
They were obviously trying very hard going into it and wanted to like show dominance.
Yeah, and they had a lot of advantages going into the tournament. I do feel like that would be a very lame excuse for kind of what happened. And I also don't think, to be fair, I don't think that was the excuse. I feel like most people in Europe are just like,
exactly. They didn't make excuses. Yeah. This one though
took it on the chin.
This one has like an inkling of could happen, right? So I think that's a better comeback because there's a lot of time till Worlds. Those teams are actually not bad teams, so they will improve probably.
This is actually a good comeback.
And I think that's
that is the lamer EU comeback.
100% consensus.
Yep. It just went back to this or that slide, so that means we are out of them.
We're done.
Yeah.
5 is it.
See you guys next time.